beautiful landscapes, lighthouses, and lobster.
Lobster. Lobster.
Lobster.
Lobster.
Lobster. Lobster. Lots and lots of
Lobster.
Keep watching this video to plan your ultimate Maine road trip. We spent a total of 1 week in Maine and thought it was just the right amount of time for our first visit. We were able to hit Portland, drive up the coast exploring some of the small towns, and finished with Acadia National Park. We already talked about planning a trip in the future where we would explore more of the interior of Maine. June through August is what they call peak season in Maine. Because the state is so cold most of the year, when it finally warms up, everyone comes, and specifically to Acadia National Park. The summer definitely allows for the most activities, including things on the water. However, in recent years, we were chatting with some of the locals who told us the summer gets so overcrowded on the island that they're now having pollution problems. If you want to avoid the crowds and still have decent weather, we recommend coming in one of the shoulder seasons, May, September, or October. We went in May and absolutely loved the 60-degree days and cool temperatures in the evening. Plus, we didn't experience overcrowding. There are a few options for flying into Maine. The biggest city would be Portland, but you can also fly into Bangor a little further in the north, or you could do what we did and fly into Boston. A couple reasons we flew into Boston. Number one, we were flying with a baby, so we really wanted a nonstop flight. Number two, it allowed us to rent our car and drive into the southernmost point of Maine to see all of the coast, which we thought was absolutely beautiful. Which leads me to the next key for planning your trip. Rent a car and plan a few days just for driving up the coast on scenic Route 1. While we think a majority of your time can be spent in Portland and Bar Harbor, the coastal towns are so much fun to explore. Here are a few of our favorite coastal town stops. Near the York Cliffs, make sure to check out the beaches and the famous Nubble Lighthouse. Algonquin. It has some nice beaches and a cool coastal walkway. Kennebunkport. Kennebunkport has a small downtown to walk around, shop, and eat some local food. The Clam Shack supposedly has the best lobster roll, but we didn't get to try it this go around. You can also drive slightly outside of the town to see Walker's Point, where the Bush compound sits on its own peninsula. And if you're willing to go a little out of the way, check out the Marshall Point Lighthouse. This is where they filmed the famous Forrest Gump running scene. Your first big stop is going to be Portland. I'll say from the start, Portland pleasantly surprised us. The city is very walkable, has lots of outdoor things to do and see, and has lots of delicious food. We recommend staying somewhere in or close to downtown so you don't have to pay for parking every day. The first activity we're going to recommend is lobstering. Lobstering feels like a quintessential Maine thing to do. You leave from the harbor in a classic fishing boat and help the crew reel up lobster traps. The guide teaches you a lot about the industry of lobsters, but you also tour around the Portland harbor. We thought it was a fun boat ride, and you can definitely bring your baby. And if you want to, at the end of the tour, you can purchase one of the lobsters you caught, take it to the Portland Lobster Company next door, and they'll grill it up for you for lunch.
We have our lunch. He's not moving anymore, though.
It's kind of like a farm to table, but more like a sea to table. And the lobster was phenomenal. Yep. Oh. Speaking of food, for breakfast you have to try the Holy Donut. They have a couple of locations in the city and a variety of unique flavors. Definitely one of the best donuts I've ever had. We went twice in 3 days. Pro tip, if you take the survey at your first visit, they'll send you a free donut.
Cheers.
Make sure you pair your donut with some Tandem coffee. It's this hipster coffee shop that also serves breakfast. We also went to Tandem twice. The most iconic place to see in Portland is the Portland Head Lighthouse. The lighthouse sits at the entrance of the Portland Harbor and is still operational to this day. We recommend seeing it during the day and at sunset. And what we didn't realize is that the lighthouse is within Fort Williams Park, which is this huge green space that you can walk around, take some great pictures, and eat lunch. In fact, the best lobster roll we had in Maine was just a couple hundred yards away from the Portland Lighthouse. Bite into Maine. This unassuming food truck has the best lobster roll.
Really good.
Yeah.
Very, oh, bless you. Very refreshing. And meaty. It's got, the bread's great.
If you're at the Portland Head Lighthouse, this is the lobster roll. All right, I'm realizing that most of the review of Portland is food, but honestly, it's like the best thing to do in the city. Let me rattle off a few more recommendations. Boda Very Thai Kitchen. Excellent Thai food, and it's actually a really great price for Maine. Duck Fat. A unique twist on French fries that are fried in, you guessed it, duck fat. And just outside of Portland, the Dairy Corner. A local ice cream place with a constant line. The last activity we recommend doing is walking the promenade, or promenade. Promenade? You can see most of Portland just doing the coastal walk, and you also get great views of boats in the harbor. We spent a total of 3 days in Portland and thought it was more than enough time to see the city and try all that it has to offer.
Lobster.
After Portland, you'll head north to Bar Harbor and Acadia. On your way, you may want to stop by Freeport to see the famous LL Bean flagship store. Even if you don't like shopping, like myself, this store is a sight to see. Both the small town of Bar Harbor and Acadia National Park are on Mount Desert Island. If you can afford to stay in Bar Harbor, by all means do it. It'll put you in walking distance of all the restaurants and shops, and it's just a short drive into the national park. But if you're more of a budget traveler like we are, we recommend staying just outside of the island in one of the nearby towns. We opted to stay in Trenton, which is just over the bridge of the island. Most of our recommendations are going to be in Acadia National Park, but if you want to see Bar Harbor, be sure to check out Bar Island. 1.5 hours before and after low tide, this land bridge, or as they call it, a bar, appears that you can walk across. When you get to the other side, you get awesome views of Bar Harbor. Just make sure you make it back before the tide covers the land bridge once again, or else you will be stuck out there. We don't have any recommendations for Bar Harbor itself because all of the shops and restaurants we thought were overrated. In order to enter Acadia, you'll have to pay the park entry fee or show your America the Beautiful pass. Overall, it's a fairly easy park to navigate. There are just a few roads going around the outside, and the hiking trails and sites are well marked. The first site you'll come upon is Sand Beach. Now don't think tropical and warm. This is a classic northeastern beach where even in the middle of summer, the water is still really cold. But the beach is really beautiful, has super blue water, and is surrounded by cliffs. If you want a view of Sand Beach from above, one of the best hikes is across the street from the parking lot, the Beehive Trail. The Beehive is a little more technical than the average hike. You're scaling granite cliff faces using these little iron rungs and chiseled steps into the side of the mountain. Once you ascend 450 feet to the top, you get amazing views over the Sand Beach and a lot of the rest of the island. So I decided to hike Beehive at sunrise this morning, and there is nobody else up here. It probably took me 15-20 minutes to get to the top. I get that we're still on the shoulder season, so it's not peak season, which means there's not a ton of people in the park. But I got up really early. I started the hike at like 5 a.m. Made it to the top by 5:15, 5:20. This is glorious. The trail is only 1.4 miles round trip, but you can extend it by going down into the Bowl Trail. The Bowl Trail opens up into this small lake before you descend back down to the Sand Beach parking lot. The next site to check out is Thunder Hole. Thunder Hole is a large outcropping in the side of a cliff, and when large waves hit the cave, it creates a huge roar like thunder. I chatted with one of the employees at the gift shop just across from Thunder Hole, and she said that the only times she's heard it actually thunder is when there's like a huge storm that day. So we didn't get to hear the thunder sound, and apparently not a lot of other people do either. The next hike we recommend is around Jordan Pond to South Bubble Mountain. Jordan Pond is a flat 3-mile, super easy trail. The north and south bubbles, as they call them, are just behind Jordan Pond. Once you reach the far side of the pond, there's a small trail heading up to South Bubble Mountain. The trail is really steep and ends up having some rock scaling toward the top. Amanda and I were too afraid to take our daughter on it, so we took turns going up and down to the top. But it's cool, there's this scenic boulder that's hanging off the side of a cliff once you get to the top. Another hike that was recommended by the park rangers was Beechcroft Path. The trail is fairly easy, although you do gain elevation really quick, and there's some rock scrambling toward the top. But once you get to the summit, you're rewarded with views for miles. I'll say this is one of the unique things about Acadia National Park. Although the mountains aren't as grand as the Rockies or Glacier National Park, the fact that Acadia is located right beside the coast means anything you hike, you get a view of the ocean. The highest point on Mount Desert Island that you can get a 360-degree view is Cadillac Mountain. Fun fact, this is the first place in the United States where you can see sunrise. At the top, there's lots of lookout spots where you can see Frenchman Bay, the Porcupine Islands, and the town of Bar Harbor. The last thing we recommend doing in the park is seeing Bass Harbor Lighthouse at sunset. This scenic lighthouse, in my opinion, was equally as cool as the Portland Head Lighthouse. Just beware that there's limited parking and you might have to park pretty far away from the lighthouse. Even in shoulder season, we got there early and most of the spots were taken. But once you park, you can take this short little walkway down to the cliffs where you get an awesome view of the lighthouse. We spent a total of 2.5 days in Acadia and thought it was just the right amount of time to see the park. The only other hike we wanted to do in our time in Acadia was the Precipice Trail, which was closed down due to falcon nesting. I also looked this up online, and it sounds like the trail is shut down most of the year, so it's kind of a gamble whether it's open or not. So if we came back to the park, we would try that trail, and also we'd like to come in the fall to see the changing colors. And if we came back to Maine as a whole, we would like to try to explore more of the interior and go further north, possibly see a moose. Anyway, that was our trip to Maine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful for planning your upcoming trip. If we left anything out, as always, let us know in the comments below. And we'll see you guys in the next one. What did you think of your first hike? That good, huh?